Hello everyone. Hi, I'm Sukanya and I hope I'm visible as well as audible. So just give me a quick confirmation in the chat box so that we can start with today's class. By the way, today's class is going to be about double negative question types. Now, this is obviously in tune with the Ultimate Revision series that we have been conducting for you guys. And of course, this is one of the bangers because you might have seen these type of questions in your mocks probably or even in your practice sets, right? So, good afternoon, everyone. Piyush, Abhinav, and whoever is present. Hi, Uday. I hope you guys are doing well. So, before we start with today's class, let me give you a, I would say, brief outline as to what to anticipate. तो तुम लोगों ने सभी ने मैथमेटिक्स तो पढ़ा ही हुआ है और मैथमेटिक्स का एक बहुत फेमस कॉन्सेप्ट है माइनस माइनस क्या होता है माइनस माइनस Piyush, actually, I did not end it. There was an internet outage and the classes got disconnected altogether. So it wasn't really my fault. Hi, Palak. So, coming back to, I've asked a very simple question here. You have all, I think, studied mathematics where you might have studied minus minus plus, exactly. So today's question types are going to be based on that particular, I would say, aspect. अगर हम यहाँ पे देखें, double negative type questions, that means you will see two words in the question which will be negative. ठीक है बट तुम लोगों को वही समझना है कि अगर दो negatives दिए हुए हैं तो इसका मतलब है the question is asking me something positive, right? आया समझ में? बस इसी चीज को ध्यान में रखते हुए we will start with today's class. So you will see some passages, we'll solve some passages together, and we'll try to identify our mistakes in this type of questions. Because generally people get really confused and usually choose the opposite. Okay, so let's be very careful, very cautious when it comes to double negative questions. You already know how it works. So yeah, I am showing you the first passage. I hope you guys are ready. So this is your first passage. Let's get started. And also, if you do not know the meaning of any of the words, let me know. I think, Anu, you will have to wait. Others are still reading. Done? What about the others? I'll give you one more minute and then we'll see the question. And how many of you can confidently say that they have understood this passage 100%, especially to the people who have already read it? Okay, Nitya has understood it. What about the others? Very good, Anu. Chalo, let's see the question. And whatever you think should be the answer, please write it down in the chat box. And do not be afraid of making mistakes. Nobody is here to judge you. First of all, identify the negative words. Can you see two negatives here in this question? Which of the following cannot be denied except? Aditya, we'll have to conduct a different class for that. Also, one more thing. So they will intentionally give you two options which are very close to each other. Now, when that kind of thing happens, you need to also keep in mind whether option, for example, you are confused between option C and D. Okay. Now you will have to check whether D can be a part of option C or vice versa. If option C can be captured in option D as well, then it will be considered as a derivative of the previous option. ठीक है, इसका मतलब है वो उसी का ही एक सपोर्टिंग एविडेंस या सपोर्टिंग डिटेल है. तो जनरली यू माइट हैव सीन सम वेरी क्लोज ऑप्शंस और वहां पे ये दिमाग लगाना बहुत जरूरी है क्योंकि अगर तुम लोगों ने कभी वेन डायग्राम्स पढ़े होंगे तो वेन डायग्राम्स में यू माइट हैव सीन समथिंग लाइक दिस, राइट? फॉर एग्जाम्पल, बी can be a part of option D. Have you seen something like that before? Yes? So here also you need to keep this particular logic in mind. Now let's get started with the. अच्छा, पहले एक चीज बताओ कि इस क्वेश्चन में पूछा क्या जा रहा है? Cannot be denied except. What exactly are we seeking? कोई बता सकता है? क्योंकि जब तक क्वेश्चन ही समझ में नहीं आएगा तो आंसर कैसे दोगे? सोचो. चलो, लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द पैसेज. तो पैसेज में हम बात कर रहे हैं कि कैसे मॉडर्न गवर्नेंस इज बेसिकली हाइडिंग बिहाइंड द veil of technical complexity. Whenever you read a government document, okay, you always find it very hard to understand. The reason is pretty simple because they use technical language, and jargon is something which is not comprehensible by most of the public. ठीक है, वहां पे होती है प्रॉब्लम. अब गवर्नमेंट इस चीज पे एक बहुत सिंपल सा आंसर देती है कि सच कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज आर अनअवॉइडेबल, सो बेसिकली दे आर जस्ट शर्किंग अवे फ्रॉम देयर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज. ठीक है. एंड अनु, यस, द करेक्ट आंसर इज व्हाट कैन नॉट बी डिनाइड इन द पैसेज. ठीक है, कैन नॉट बी डिनाइड, दैट्स द क्वेश्चन. क्योंकि कांट भी आ गया था, एक्सेप्ट भी आ गया था। नाउ कमिंग बैक टू, हम यहाँ पे देखते हैं कि गवर्नमेंट ने पहले ही बोल दिया है कि ऐसी कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज तो आती ही रहेंगी, एंड वी कैन नॉट रियली डू एनीथिंग व्हेन एवर इट कम्स टू गवर्नेंस पॉलिसीज, यू विल कम अक्रॉस documents which are hard to understand. But then the thing is, our reliance on technocracy basically means when the government or the country is ruled by a selected few people, especially the elites. Okay, now our dependence on the technocrats has actually led us to not have any accountability when it comes to government policies. What does that mean? एक तरफ तो हम लोग बोल रहे हैं कि in the name of transparency we are basically creating every single document in an easier format. But the thing is, when it actually comes to reading those documents, not everybody can understand it. So यहाँ पे clearly बोला गया है कि एक तरफ we provide numbers, that we are providing you transparency, but numbers can easily be manipulated. For example, यहाँ पे बहुत अच्छा सा example दिया हुआ है कि if the government has redefined the term unemployment or employment for that matter, जैसे यहाँ पे वो बोल रहा है redefinition of employment, ठीक है, so they can easily boast or claim that we have already reduced unemployment, but now the definition differs. हो सकता है कि अब के ज़माने में employment की definition ही अलग हो. For somebody who is earning 150 rupees a day can be considered an employed person. ठीक है, हो सकता है ये न्यू डेफिनेशन हो, बट यू ऑल्सो नो दैट 150 rupees does not really even bring food to the table. You do not even get 2 square meals a day, right? So they have redefined and they did not really tell the public. Similarly, यहाँ पे हम देख सकते हैं लिटरेसी के बारे में. So we are presented with the illusion of progress. Suppose they have started talking about how we have improved literacy in our country. But the thing is, again, we have redefined what a literate person is. So, literate person can be somebody who can just simply read A to Z, and maybe they are able to just read something, maybe not understand it that well or productively. तो बात यह है कि हम definitions change करके to our own benefit we can actually manipulate the common people, right? तो यहाँ पे वही बोला गया है कि there is no transparency while they claim that we are trying to quantify everything, we are providing you numbers, but numbers are manipulated. So in the end, some political theorists also argue that deliberate deceit means something which is done intentionally to deceive the public, to mislead the public. But this is not really deliberate disease. This is a systemic inertia. That means the system is working together in order to blindside the common public. ठीक है? So moving forward, we get to see that in बहुत बार ऐसे instances होते हैं where the government is seeking public opinion, where they ask you for feedback, where they ask you to help them make decisions. But the thing is, it is only a performative act. That means आप सिर्फ दुनिया के सामने ये picture present करना चाहते हो that we are including everybody in our decision making process. But the truth is far from it. Because when it comes to policy making, ये जो public opinions होते हैं, they are kept at bay. They are not even considered. So would you really consider this living in a democracy? बताओ. Guys, let's focus, please. तो बताओ, you are living in a democracy where you have been included to take some political decisions. But when it comes to final policy making, your opinions do not even matter to the government. Will you consider that this is a democracy? सिंपल सी बात. क्या ये सही में डेमोक्रेसी की डेफिनेशन है जहां पे सिर्फ to present a picture of illusion that yes, everybody is included. You're just calling in everybody, but you're not even considering their viewpoint. Not at all, right? तो बस यहाँ पे वही बात है कि we are actually been, आप बोल सकते हो, in a clouded situation where things are not very clear to us, and if at all we want a true blue democracy, we need to have documents which we can easily comprehend, which we can easily interpret, which we can easily challenge. जब तक हम चैलेंज ही नहीं करेंगे तो अकाउंटेबिलिटी कहाँ से आएगी गवर्नमेंट की? गवर्नमेंट विल कीप ऑन डूइंग व्हाट दे वांट टू डू without even considering people, right? So that's what the passage is all about. Now, taking you to the first question, Which of the following cannot be denied except? So basically यहाँ पे cannot be denied भी था और accept भी था. ठीक है? So that means what should be the answer? And you guys have given different answers for this. One thing, cannot be denied का मतलब होता है something which will be held true. But then they have given you accept, है ना? So, what do you think should be the answer? Let's first talk about option D, which most people chose. Democratic engagement requires comprehension. This is actually given in the passage, not mere consultation. And I do not deny it as the right answer. But the thing is, do we have a better option than this? That is something that you need to understand. So when you look at this actually looks like a derivative or a supporting detail to the main argument. Whereas if I look at option B and C, both of them are contradictory to what is given in the passage. Okay? So basically, we need to find something which can be accepted as true according to the question. Citizens actively shape policies, whereas in the passage it has been written that citizens' role is performative. So contradictory. Statistical claims can obscure as much as they reveal. बात ये है कि the passage very clearly claims that it obscures, not reveal as such anything. So they can manipulate it. So again, this cannot be the answer. The answer is option A, which I think nobody really marked. Did anybody mark it? So coming back to, if I look at option D, which most people marked, if this is A, D can be a part of option A. Okay? So, governance has become more complex in the name of efficiency. That's true. The first paragraph actually states the same thing. We are just trying to be efficient, and in the name of efficiency, we are becoming more and more complex. And even the government says that you need to accept this complexity to take decisions because we can't really help it. So, ये मेन आर्ग्यूमेंट था और ये सपोर्टिंग आर्ग्यूमेंट था, इसलिए डी आंसर नहीं है. ठीक है? सो कमिंग बैक टू, actually when we talk about statistical claims, look at this. When we talk about numbers, here they have talked about it only and only in negative terms. They did not even talk about its positive outcomes. So ये वाला जो ऑप्शन है इसमें both positive and negative has been discussed, ऑप्शन सी में, whereas in the passage only the negative is discussed. ठीक है? obscure का मतलब होता है making something unclear, something that hides the truth. Okay? Now, moving to the next one. Okay, Palak. So it had cannot be denied except. So basically, you were supposed to pick what can be accepted. That means you're supposed to prove cannot be denied. You just have to ignore the accept part. Are you done reading? Okay. Showing you the question now. Again, you're supposed to identify what can be inferred. नहीं हुआ है? एक काम करो इसका स्क्रीनशॉट ले लो in that case. Showing you the question now. I think now you will be able to answer this better. So Nitya is ready with her answer. What exactly is your name? The one who has joined us just now? I think you can just sit back and relax for this one and be an active participant for the next passage. Kare discuss? Ready? चलो. So, एक बहुत सिंपल सी चीज यहाँ पे बताई गई है that human beings have been fascinated with technology. And usually, people say that it is only because we are lazy and we just want to deploy everything to technology. But the truth is far from it. It's actually human beings have this urge, this need to control everything around them. And that's the reason, as we can see, the technological leap from printing press to artificial intelligence. Every single thing has given us the promise that it is going to free us from a life of drudgery. Drudgery का मतलब होता है जहाँ पे बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ती है. You have to just toil away your entire life. So basically, technology is going to help you somehow to maybe lessen that drudgery. Now, the thing is, still, when we see each wave of innovation, you know, ये जो कंट्रोल की आदत है ह्यूमन बींग्स की, दिस कंट्रोल एक्चुअली सीम्स टू बी शिफ्टेड अवे, far away from these individuals who are actually making it towards invisible systems. Which invisible systems are we talking about? We're talking about computers, we're talking about the internet, we're talking about the algorithms. And I think we are all, I would say the victims of our algorithms. तुम लोग agree करोगे ही इस चीज से. सो मूविंग फॉरवर्ड, आज के जमाने में एल्गोरिदम्स ही हर चीज डिसाइड कर दिए. कितने लोग हैं यहाँ पे दैट यू माइट हैव हैड अ कॉन्वर्सेशन विद योर फ्रेंड regarding some food that you would like to try, or maybe a place that you would like to visit, and soon after you will start seeing ads of that in your phones. कितने लोगों के साथ होता है ये? सभी के साथ हुआ होगा, आई गेस. And most of the times, it seems like the algorithm is listening to what we want. It seems like the internet has ears. So, coming back to, as we can see, algorithms decide what we read, what we want, who we meet. So, paradoxically, ये जो technology है, which is meant to be so convenient, actually is making us less autonomous users. That means now we do not have the control. The technology has a control over us. आ गया समझ में? So, this loss of agency is not overt. Loss of agency means this loss of action, this loss of control is not explicitly given. But the thing is, people actually believe that they have multiple choices and they can choose something. But ये लोग सब भूल रहे हैं कि it's not really something that you are doing for yourself. It's the algorithm nudging you towards that direction. Oh, you want a new dress? They'll start showing you ads of shirts probably. If you want jewelry, they will only and only give you ads related to jewelry. So everything is being governed by these algorithms. Even the choice of partners sometimes on dating websites. तो लोगों को लगता है कि हमारे पास चॉइस है, बट ये चॉइस दे कौन रहा है आपको? ये एल्गोरिदम ही दे रही है. सो एवरी सिंगल थिंग हैज बीन डिसाइडेड बाय इट. नाउ this ethical dilemma is profound. Dilemma, a situation of dilemma is a situation of uncertainty. So, as we can see, technology's intelligence actually evolves faster than the person who creates it. Probably I might have created, a piece of technology, but the thing is, उसकी intelligence एक normal human being से कई ज़्यादा आगे है. ठीक है? So, we need to first of all understand that. And secondly, we also need to understand the more regulations we have, the more it will lag behind innovation. जितनी ज़्यादा restrictions and limits हम create करेंगे, that means we are going to lag behind in terms of innovation or creativity. And the public discourse often follows the headlines rather than the principles. Whatever is in trend, the public would follow that. It's like one sheep follows the other. ठीक है? So moving forward, society does oscillates. I would say you might have seen a pendulum, it moves to and fro, right? The same way society oscillates from two extremes, from one extreme to another. एक extreme ये है कि हम टेक्नोलॉजी को अनक्रिटिकली एम्ब्रेस कर लेते हैं कि इसमें कुछ गड़बड़ हो ही नहीं सकती. And the second is paranoid rejection. That means I can never trust the technology fully, so I'm not going to use it. तो ये दो extremes में ही हमारी society जो है, it keeps on moving to and fro, right? But the thing is, we need to understand that we cannot really live a life in extremes. We need to have some mutual agreement, basically. So we need to find the middle path. So in this case, we need to get to know the literacy to engage with technology in a critical manner. We need to know what is good for us and what is bad, basically. So the challenge is not to resist technology, that technology is bad. No, we cannot really simply resist it because we are living in a world, we are surrounded by technology, right? बट टू रिक्लेम अंडरस्टैंडिंग, हमें उसका जो कॉम्प्रहेंशन है, उसको समझने का तरीका, उसे बेटर बनाना है बेसिकली टू इम्प्रूव दैट. सो हियर एज वी कैन सी ऑटोमेशन इफ लेफ्ट अनचेक्ड, यू ओनली नो दैट if you do not check your robots, they might someday rule the world. That's what we all fear. Artificial intelligence is going to be the death of us. Why do we believe that? Because if we do not check it, regulate it, there are going to be massive repercussions because of it. So here, as we can see, producing citizens who outsource judgment to machines. कितने लोग हैं यहाँ पे जो चैट जीपीटी रोज यूज करते हैं? I think for the simplest of decisions also, we have started, taking help of AI websites. And soon the day will come close when every single decision will be made by that chat GPT, not us. So we obviously do not want to live in a world where everything is regulated by robots, right? So that's the reason we need to find that middle path. So coming back to जैसे कि मैंने बोला व्हाट कैन नॉट बी इन्फर्ड एक्सेप्ट, तो दो नेगेटिव्स का मतलब होता है पॉजिटिव. तो यू आर सपोज टू फाइंड आउट व्हाट कैन बी इन्फर्ड, एंड 90% people mark the right answer as far as I know, or 100% maybe. So coming back to technology has enhanced individual control over decisions, enhanced or reduced. So this is something which is contradictory and can't be in cannot be inferred, right? Then the illusion of choice conceals the erosion of autonomy, and this is our answer. We feel that we have the choice to make decisions, but it's not us, it's actually the technology controlling us. Okay, that's what has been stated in the entire passage. Regulation has evolved. Look at this line. Regulation lags behind innovation, और यहाँ पे उल्टा दिया हुआ है. It is not really evolving, it is actually lagging. So again, can't be inferred. Users have completely rejected. First of all, always be careful with extreme words. The passage does not really claim that users have completely rejected algorithmic influence. Actually, the passage states that users have been influenced by algorithms. So उल्टा दिया हुआ है. Answer is B, Bombay. And moving on to the next passage. So, my idea for today is at least finish two more passages and then we'll wrap up today's session. Okay, so probably till four. Anu. And hi, Palash. Anuj, the question that you have asked actually does not really have a black and white answer because ideal score, to be very honest, it is something that is dependent on the level of difficulty of the mock. So, any which way, if you want to have an average score in English section, then an average score would be 16 plus in basically all sorts of situations, whether the mock is easy, moderate, or difficult. So, if you can manage that, I think you're good to go. And Amritansh, can you please stop spamming? No, Ruby. See, the thing is, when cannot and accept occur in the same sentence, that means you are supposed to find out what can be inferred. If they are saying cannot be inferred except, that means you are supposed to find out what can be inferred from this particular question. I'm showing you the question now. Are you done? And yes, Anu, you're right about it. Anu, you are a really fast reader. What about the others? Are you also done? Showing you the question now. Basically, the question is asking you what cannot be disproven unless you prove that. So basically, you are supposed to only focus on this part. Think again. What cannot be refuted? Okay. If you look at this one, this can be refuted according to the passage, guys. सोचो अच्छे से पूरा पैसेज ही इसी चीज के ऊपर है. Because if laws and morality have always been perfectly aligned, then would the writer have written this passage in the first place? वो पैसेज लिखता ही क्यों अगर लॉस और मोरालिटी साथ साथ चल रहे होते. सोचो जरा. And finally, we are getting some right answers. Very good, Ruby, Arya, Palash. You are on the right track. Let's talk about the passage here. Now, laws are obviously often celebrated as the backbone of our civilization. बिल्कुल सही बात है. But the thing is, when we talk about the history of legal system, it actually reveals that morality and legality have never been perfect twins. That means what is legal might not necessarily be ethical. So just because the law has said it does not make it moral. समझ में आया? और उसी के ऊपर ये पूरा आर्ग्यूमेंट है. जैसे कि ऐसे बहुत सारे लॉज हुआ करते थे इन एंशियंट इंडिया, इन एंशियंट वर्ल्ड, that if you can see they have patented unjust laws by sanctioning them as legal. ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें थी like slavery for that matter. They have talked about slavery, colonial exploitation, gender discrimination. Do you really think that this is actually a moral thing to do? Slavery, discrimination, all of that. है क्या moral? But उस समय पे ये लीगल थे. So it was legal, but not really moral. Now, the tension exposes a fundamental contradiction. Obviously, this is contradictory because a society that is governed solely by law risks, अब इसी के ऊपर से पूरा आंसर निकलने वाला है. Risks mistaking compliance for virtue. Obviously, you are living in a country, you are supposed to follow the rules and laws. So आपको law follow करना पड़ेगा. You are compelled, you are bound to follow it because if you do not follow it, you will be in jail. You will be punished. So just because I'm complying with the laws, it actually makes you think that I am virtuous. अब तुम ही लोग बताओ कि according to my country, according to the legality of the constitution, I can discriminate people on the basis of gender. So do you really think I'm doing something which is ethical? बताओ. तो ये एथिकल तो नहीं है, बट लॉ बोलता है कि है, तो मैं उसको फॉलो कर रही हूँ. इट्स दैट सिंपल. सो हियर देयर आर मेनी लीगल पॉजिटिविस्ट argue that the law's authority stems from its enactment. That means who has enacted it, when they have enacted it, and what was the reasoning behind the enactment, and not its morality. So, moral philosophers also have a counter answer to that. क्योंकि moral philosophers के हिसाब से कोई law law ही नहीं है if it is not grounded in morality, and I think even I believe that is true. If you do not have a moral reason, then how can you actually make it into a law which is implemented throughout the country? ठीक है. So coming back to, as you can see, the argument is not academic, it shapes real struggles. हम बहुत सारे struggles, for example, from civil rights to whistleblower protection के बारे में बात की गई है. And even the modern democracies are trying to reconcile. Reconcile का मतलब होता है they are trying to restore balance. Okay, by embedding moral principles. So nowadays, whenever we are making or implementing new laws, we are trying to keep that in mind to have its morality intact. हम ऐसे ही ऐसे कुछ blindly laws नहीं बना रहे हैं. At least हम कोशिश तो यही कर रहे हैं. So yet even constitutions, even after all these efforts, अगर हम constitution को देखें, तो it still reflects the biases of the frame of the people who have framed the constitution back in the day. तो आज भी हमें देखता है कि the prevailing social morality rather than an absolute truth is something which is deemed just, but actually is not probably. So coming back to, we are constantly walking a tightrope. That means it seems like we can fall at any given instance if we just lose our balance. And that's the reason it's really imperative for all of us to actually uphold, you know, the right things, the just things. यहाँ पे बोला गया है the court keeps on, voting for something which is unjust just because it's written in the constitution, just because they have precedent. But the thing is that is not really fair to the citizens, to the people who are living in that country. And whenever there are lawyers who are actually trying to counter that, they call them judicial activism. They call them that you're going against your constitution. That means you are doing something illegal. तो बेसिकली बात यहाँ पे यही है कि ये जो डिलेमा है, ये जो स्टेट ऑफ अनसर्टेनिटी है, दिस हैज बीन अ टाइमलेस अफेयर. देयर हैज बीन नो क्लियर conclusive actions that have been taken so far, and that's the reason we do not know can justice ever be codified without being constrained. There will be always certain types of limits and restrictions. तो हमें नहीं पता है कि when exactly are we going to have a black and white answer. So law therefore cannot claim moral infallibility. That's why when I say that it's legal, it might not be moral. ठीक है, वही इस पूरे पैसेज का सार है बेसिकली. सो कमिंग बैक टू क्वेश्चन नंबर 3, which statement cannot be refuted except. सो बेसिकली यहाँ पे तुम लोगों को बस ये पता करना है कि what cannot be disproven unless you prove. इसका मतलब ही ये है कि you are only supposed to follow this particular part of the question and not the except one. Okay. Now, laws and morality have always been perfectly aligned. The sentence actually claims otherwise. जैसे कि यहाँ पे दिया हुआ है. Where exactly it is? Hmm. Morality and legality have never been perfect twins. The opposite. That means you have refuted it. So this has been refuted. Obedience to law does not always equate to righteousness. This is our answer. If you look at this, a society governed solely by law risks mistaking compliance for virtue. बस इसी से ही आंसर निकल रहा है. And this cannot be refuted because this has been stated, claimed in the passage itself. Okay? Judicial interpretation is free from moral dilemmas, whereas we clearly know that judicial interpretation actually faces moral dilemmas. So the opposite. Legal systems are immune to historical bias, whereas we can clearly see they aren't immune to it. At least the passage does not state it. So the correct answer is option D. I think we do have time for one last passage. Done? Okay, again, Palak. Cannot be inferred except actually means can be inferred or can be accepted. Two negatives make a positive. अब समझ में आया? Cannot be inferred except that means you are supposed to find something which can be inferred. Ruby, I'll see what I can do about it. I'll have to, I think, get it uploaded or something. Okay, let's talk about the passage. So you already know that media and democracy have always shared a very uncomfortable relationship. उसका reason ये है कि media is basically the mirror to your democracy, right? But nowadays, I think this line has been blurring. The reason is pretty simple because media wants to maximize their profits. And for the sake of profits, they keep on showing the piece of information or news which is sensational, right? And that's the reason people have more and more access to the same news over and over again. So as we can clearly see, उनके प्रायोरिटीज जो है वो शिफ्ट हो चुके हैं फ्रॉम पब्लिक सर्विस टू एक्चुअली मेकिंग प्रॉफिट्स और वहीं पे प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है नाउ द स्टोरी दैट गार्नर्स क्लिक्स दैट मीन्स people are viewing it maximum, they are going to showcase it again and again, and that is going to outweigh the one that fosters civic understanding. That means what is important has not been televised, आप बोल सकते हो shown on shown on the television, whereas what is less important but entertaining has been shown again and again. I think we are all very familiar with this because we have all watched news channels, and news channels पे वही चीज दिखाई जाती है बार बार जिसमें मजा आ रहा होता है. ठीक है. So as we can see, this commercialization has blurred the boundary between information and entertainment. Now they are just simply, I would say, competing to gain more and more attention. And whichever news channel gets the maximum attention, obviously, they make the most profits. As simple as that. So, when facts must compete for attention with sensationalism, truth itself becomes a commodity. That means they no longer care about what is true and what is false. क्योंकि अब सिर्फ उनका जो इंटरेस्ट है वो एंटरटेनमेंट है, राइट? सो दे आर नो लॉन्गर वाउचिंग फॉर द जेन्युइन pieces of news. Okay, now coming back to also the overwhelming volume of content. These days, I think we have been, we have been seeing constantly that our plate is overflowing with content. हर जगह पे content है. And mistakes noise for diversity, which basically means that just because you keep on seeing it so much that you are kind of mistaking it for diversity and you're kind of thinking that हाँ इतनी सारी खबरें तो हमें मिल ही रही है, but the thing is it's just an overload of content which is meaningless, not meaningful. ठीक है. So media does not really fail to inform it, it actually over informs. They are actually drowning what is significant just to showcase थिंग्स इन अबंडेंस. इसका मतलब है जो इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है उसे नहीं दिखाते हैं, जो ज्यादा है वो दिखाया जाता है. ठीक है. सो critics argue that this is not an accidental byproduct. That means this is not something that has happened all of a sudden or by accident. It is actually an intentional design. Obviously intentional. Why? Because everybody wants to succeed eventually. So here also, as we can see, the attention economy, today's economy is attention economy. Our attention spans are really really less. So हमें सबको ही पता है कि जो इंटरेस्टिंग लगता है वही हम देखते हैं. सो वी काइंड ऑफ थ्राइव ऑन डिस्ट्रैक्शन. हमें ऐसी ही खबरें पसंद आती है. वी लाइक टू हियर द स्पाइसी गॉसिप, राइट? So a fragmented public is easier to influence. Basically, the divide and rule policy, where the public itself is so distracted, it's very easy to influence them and have an impact. And in such a scenario, freedom of the press does not necessarily guarantee freedom of thought. That means आपके पास freedom of press तो है, but freedom of thought नहीं है. उसका मतलब क्या होता है? A citizen who has unlimited access of news but no time for reflection. So that means I have too much content, but I do not really have the time to evaluate that content. Whether it is the right, I would say, genuine news, or whether it is something which has been just manipulate it to garner more and more attention. तो ये evaluate करने का किसी के पास time ही नहीं है. So the crisis of modern journalism is not in its censorship, but actually in its saturation. Saturation का मतलब ये होता है कि basically after a certain period of time you have got overflowing plate. ठीक है? That means you cannot really squeeze in more information after that. So basically now the problem is not censorship but saturation, and democracy kind of depends only on the right to speak, on the and as we can see, but on the capacity to listen, comprehend and evaluate. तो पहले जो democracy हुआ करती थी, it used to work on a different principle, and today it is quite the opposite as we can clearly see. So when media system is prioritizing speed over accuracy, ऑफ कोर्स जितनी जल्दी खबर पहुंचाएंगे उतना ही जल्दी टीआरपीज बढ़ेंगे. बट accuracy does not really matter because who is questioning? Nobody is asking for accountability because nobody really has the time. So basically, they are prioritizing speed over accuracy and outrage over insight. And that kind of erode the deliberative spirit of, you know, democracy altogether. क्योंकि democracy का तो मतलब ही ये है ना कि you get to know the right things so that you can base your judgment and base your decisions on it. But you're being provided with all the false information so far. So, coming back to which of the following cannot be dismissed except, what do you think should be the answer? Media saturation can weaken democratic deliberation. Can you dismiss this? Okay, most of you, I think, have chosen D as their answer. The freedom to consume information does not ensure freedom of thought. Yes, the correct answer is option D. The freedom to consume information does not really ensure freedom of thought, and that has been provided to you here as well, right? Where exactly it is? Hmm. So freedom of the press does not necessarily guarantee freedom of thought. किसका आंसर चेंज हो गया पलाश? You did choose D, no? And then you changed your answer. Is this what you did? So coming back to yes, this is where we'll have to call it a day, guys. By the way, if I could upload the list of double negatives, I will to this YouTube channel. And until then, stay tuned. You will have a next session, I think probably at 4:30. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much for your time. I have another class lined up, so I'll have to take your leave. Bye bye. Have a great day.